Yes, friends, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. Romelu Lukaku exit clause fee been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. Gary Neville flip-flops, changes his tune about Chelsea, and Jamie Carragher comes out with some proper nonsense.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
What's happening, friends? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Chelsea news. Like I said, lots to get into today. Some, what I reckon, positive news about Lukaku. Interesting to hear what Gary Neville said about Chelsea after slagging us off all summer. Speaking of slagging us off, Spitty Carragher, often regarded as a good pundit, but sometimes comes out with absolute nonsense. Thank you for joining me. Feel free to support the content by dropping a like on the video. Apparently helps us content creators out. I'm not entirely sure though, but please do drop a like, comment, and you're welcome to subscribe if you want to. Alright then, Big Fab Romano confirming that there has been a new exit clause inserted into Romelu Lukaku's contract is the word I'm looking for. Of course, he went to Roma on loan in the summer. Started really well there. He's got 7 goals in 7 games, against smaller city-ass sides. Bit of a flat-track bully, but we move. It's good for us because it means there'll be more of a market for him. He is not going to play for Chelsea again. He knows it, Chelsea know it, we know it. So it's good for everyone that he plays well. I'll tell you the fee in just a moment. Also, in the summer, apparently he agreed a wage reduction in Chelsea's agreement for his contract. We've spoken about this before, but it's worth reiterating because of all the dumb stuff Lukaku has done, and he's done a bunch. He, to his credit, negotiated this deal with Chelsea. I think Chelsea's ownership, Todd Boehly and Igbali, reflected on how easily they let Lukaku go on loan to Inter negatively. Of course, when they took over Chelsea's ownership, they inherited the Lukaku problem, and I think after speaking to Tuchel, they were like, yeah, whatever, Tuchel just doesn't want him here. He's a Champions League winning manager, let's just please him. Of course, lots of stuff followed, much of which we don't know about in the mainstream football media, but some stuff went on between Tuchel and the ownership. He had to go. Point being, they tried to appease him early doors by getting rid of Lukaku, probably too easily, probably of a much too good deal for Inter. They reflected negatively on that. So the following summer, this summer just ending, they didn't want to be too much of pushovers when letting Lukaku essentially get what he wants. And he wanted to go to Inter. They saw how he behaved with blocking Inter this time. And when he wanted to get his move to Roma, obviously Jose Mourinho somehow convincing Lukaku yet again to join up with him, after pretty much doing him dirty in Chelsea originally and then United. I don't know how he keeps convincing him. Anyway, he wants to go to Roma to join Mourinho. Chelsea say, all right, but you have to agree an alteration to your contract where you get reduced salary. So he's actually no longer the highest paid player at our club, if we are to believe reports. Sterling is, and Lukaku did that. So essentially he could have his wages covered by Roma. Now, what is the release clause fee? Well, Fabrizio Romano said it's £37 million, so I guess that's just over 40 million euros. I'm not sure the exchange rate at the moment. Just over 40 million euros kind of makes sense. He'll be in his he's in his 30s. More comfortably into his 30s. 2 years left on his deal. Everyone in the ruddy world knows he's not going to play for Chelsea again, and the fallout that we've endured. So to get 40 million euros, just over, that it's probably about right. But Chelsea, Fabrizio Romano reports, we don't want to spend time negotiating and haggling anymore. We've had enough of the spectre of Lukaku. So they've just slapped this number and says, right, anyone that wants him, pay this money, you can have him, baby. And it will probably be an Italian club. I don't know if his relationship with Inter can be repaired or if Juventus will come back in for him. But Roma might do that. Roma might, if Roma get Champions League footballs, I don't know where they are in the league. I don't think they started too great, but say they qualify for the Champions League, they could probably drop 40 million euros on Big Rom to be their centre forward moving forward. So let me know what you think of Lukaku's exit clause. Comment down below. Let's move on. Alright, I want to talk about the Sky Sports pundits. We'll talk about Jamie Carragher slagging off Chelsea in just a moment. But Gary Neville, man, I used to really respect Gary Neville as a pundit, but ever since, like, you know, he got torn apart, obviously took the Qatari money, and he got torn apart on Have I Got News for You? Easy for me to say. If you haven't seen that clip, I'd urge you. I don't know, he's a smart guy, but like, his commentary's got worse on Sky. Like he just comes up with some nonsense now. It's like he's become a caricature of himself. He just does it ooh, and he flip flops all the time. And he was good. And I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I think he's become a worse pundit and a worse analyst. I think Jamie Carragher is actually a much better football analyst than he is. That's probably why they've put him on it. But I'm disappointed with Neville. Neville spent the summer just slagging off Chelsea, and all of a sudden, Chelsea are now going to qualify for the Champions League. When speaking on the Gary Neville podcast, he said about United, he doesn't think they finished top 5. Of course, they're speaking top 5 because apparently there's a very strong chance the top 5 qualify you for the Champions League. He says, I think they're way off it, Manchester United. And I'm surprised because 7 or 8 weeks ago I had them 3rd. Lol. But I honestly... From what I see at the moment, I don't see the goalkeeper settled in. Chelsea, I think, are probably nearer, and they can go on a run because they've got some really good, talented young players. Hold on, Nev. You were slagging Chelsea for buying loads of young, talented players, like with our scattergun approach. It's mental what they're doing, and suddenly these young players are a reason why we're going to qualify for the Champions League, and your beloved Manchester United are a bunch of silly sods. Before we talk about Jamie Carragher, I want to reiterate, I think, yes, I agree with the big flip-flopper, Gary Neville. I do think Chelsea can qualify for the Champions League and go on a run, largely because we don't have any Champions League this season as well, so that will help us in our pursuit to hopefully do better in Premier League games and qualify for the top 5, and not just because Chelsea have won 3 games in a row, which we like to say here at the moment, but people gave me a lot of grief. I caught a lot of heat. Heck, I caught a lot of strays. I was being positive, which I often get condemned for, about Chelsea's underlying numbers, the underlying data that suggested Chelsea were performing better than results. The results we were not earning or not earning, and the phrase toxic positivity was thrown at me a couple of times, which I couldn't quite get my head around, but we move. Anyway, Gary Neville's on board now. Let me know what you think about him saying Chelsea could qualify for the Champions League, and perhaps sadly, over Manchester United as well, who, yeah, they just look awful, don't they? Anyway, let's move on and speak about spitty Jamie Carragher. Right, so yes, probably the better pundit out of the two, but horrendous. Jamie Carragher. On Monday Night Football, he spoke with the legend that is Frank Lampard about where Chelsea are. Now, speaking about bad, look, I do respect Carragher as a pundit. I think he can be a good analyst. I do not agree with him maintaining his position at Sky Sports after spitting on a 14-year-old girl on camera. But, that's another conversation. He was speaking, and look, again, I said at the time, I do think it was a really good casting from Sky Sports to have Frank Lampard, the Chelsea man, the Chelsea manager, who's actually privy to what the Chelsea owners want. He knows about them. And then you got Jamie Carragher, who represents essentially the opposition. But I want to go across some quotes he said, and just basically, speak about what he says, because he keeps saying the 1 billion, Chelsea spent 1 billion, and yes, Chelsea have spent 1 billion, but contextually it needs to be they haven't just spent 1 billion to make a squad better. They've spent 1 billion to replace rebuilt a whole squad. If you rebuilt his beloved Liverpool, if you sold everyone and rebuilt it, they'd spend 1 billion as well. Do you know what I mean? If you sold Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson, people in the midfield, Trent Alexander-Arnold, not that we've got rid of Reece James. Point being, though, if you lost all these high-profile players, you would spend a lot of money as well to rebuild. But more importantly, that investment hasn't just gone into the Chelsea first team. This is getting lost. Andre Santos, Cesare Casadei, heavy investment in those players, currently both out on loan. Angelo at Strasbourg, Carragher, Slanina, all these players, and people. Did Carragher get bought by current ownership? I think they did. Anyway, lots and lots of players are part of Project 2030, which I know isn't a sexy part of the headline ripping Chelsea for spending £1 billion. But for those people who like to think about things, contextually it needs to be brought into the spotlight. This is what the investment represents. Not, Chelsea tried to make their first team better with £1 billion. No, we tried to rebuild and revamp the squad and players, youth players, fringe players to be loaned, thinking ahead, trying to make the business more sustainable and the squad building in the future more sustainable. That's where holistically the investment has went. But I just wanted to firstly start with that because he keeps throwing out the £1 billion, £1 billion. And here he goes again, quote, "If you're telling me Chelsea's best team after they spent £1 billion, so remember what I just said, and also we're missing like 12 first-teamers when he's analysing this. The team would still need at least 4 top players if they had a chance of catching Manchester City." Okay, pause. Firstly, Manchester City, I think we probably need another signing or two to get Manchester City, but a more salient point is Man City are a bunch of senior seasoned winners. It's time and coaching of these young talented players. The young talented players that our friend Gary Neville was just referencing. So he goes on to say the goalkeeper is not good enough. First of all, to make a sound of a scouser, Rob Sanchez has been fine. People wondered at the beginning, but look at Andre Onana. If you want to worry about, people targeting the top of the Premier League table with expensive goalkeepers, maybe because Chelsea didn't spend the money that United spent it on Onana, that we're suddenly saying he's not good enough. I think it's unfair for him to just start like that. We don't know what Rob Sanchez is. He only cost 20 million quid, but suddenly he's looked a lot better for us lately. For him to come in and say that, it's a sweeping statement. The centre forward is not good enough. So who are they referencing? Is he referencing Nico Jackson? Again, unproven. He's got a couple of goals. He's just settling in. He's very young. He needs time. Of course, also remember Jamie Carragher, or won't remember because he doesn't, he won't be pondering Chelsea enough to have an educated opinion. But Christopher Nkunku, he played up front in pre-season. He is our elite, high-profile attacker. And of late, Pochettino has been playing a 4-3-3 formation, not a 4-2-3-1, which would dictate maybe the likes of Christopher Nkunku would play up front as that striker who's a goal scorer. So everything in question so far from the Scouser. He says they need another centre-back and probably another midfield player. Firstly, let's start. This is mental. Okay, so centre-back. We've got Thiago Silva, Levi Colwill, Axel Disasi, Benoit Badiashile, Wesley Fofana. If I said Wesley Fofana, 5 really good centre-backs. Granted, one's nearly 40. 4 really good young centre-backs in a 2 centre-back system. Granted, one's playing full-back at the moment. But we don't need a centre-back. We've got millions of good centre-backs. Shut up, fam. And another midfielder. What are you going on about? Another midfielder. We've got the 200. Here, I'll talk about money now. We've got the 220 million pivot of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, but you add England international and current captain Conor Gallagher, and you add £60 million Romeo Lavia, and then you can consider on loan high-profile talents of Andre Santos and Cesare Casadei. Yeah, we do not need another midfielder. This just winds me up. Look, you could say that, and why do you give a sugar about what Jamie Carragher says? And to a degree I don't, but it's a high-profile broadcasting, and he's just, I started this by saying I respect a lot of his analysis and broadcasting, even if I don't think he should be at a job. Why come out with absolute nonsense? Like, look at the squad. Look at what we... If you're so obsessed with how this £1 billion we spent, look at who we spent it on. And then, again, take some time and say, right, actually, you know what? They've got loads of really good midfielders. They've got loads of really good centre-backs. Their goalkeeper has been performing well, and they've got options up front, and Nkunku's going to come back. Anyway, I just wanted to vent. Remember, it's football therapy, and for me... this is therapy. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Please let me know your thoughts, feelings, and emotions down in the comment section. I thank you for liking and subscribing. And hopefully, my friends, I see you back here very soon.